Haribol, Dandavat Pranams, everybody. Saturday, day 11, 30th of October, and Ramananda Prabhu will be giving us the Jayadwani and some Kirtan. Haribol. Thanks, Ram.
Jai Shri Shri Guru Gauranga Gandharvika Giridhari Shri Shri Radha Vinod Bihari Ju Ki Jai. Om Vishnupad Paramahans Pariprajikacharya Ashtotra Shata Shri Srimad Bhakti Vedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Nitrila Pravishtam Vishnupad Ashtotra Shata Shri Srimad Bhakti Vedanta Trivikram Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Nitrila Pravishtam Vishnupad Ashtotra Shata Shri Srimad Bhakti Vedanta Vaman Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Nitrila Pravishtam Vishnupad Ashtotra Shata Shri Srimad Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Acharya Keshari Param Gurudev Nitrila Pravishtam Vishnupad Ashtotra Shata Shri Srimad Bhakti Pragyana Keshava Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Jagat Guru Nitrila Pravishtam Vishnupad Ashtotra Shata Shri Srimad Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Thakur Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Mahabhagavad Srila Gaur Kishordas Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai. Saptam Goswami Sachidananda Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur Ki Jai. Vaishnava Sarvabhauma Srila Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai. Shri Rupanuga Gauri Guru Varga Ki Jai. Patita Pavan Nityananda Prabhu Ki Jai. Sachinandana Gaura Hari Ki Jai. Gaura Bhakta Brinda Ki Jai. Jai Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Shri Vrindavan Dham Parikrama Ki Jai. Shri Krishna Bhakti Pradayini Brinda Devi Tulasi Maharani Ki Jai. Shri Radha Syamasundara Ki Jai. Shri Jharu-mandal Ki Jai. Jai Shri Parikramakari Bhakta Brinda Ki Jai. Jai Nitrila Pravishtam Vishnupad Ashtotra Shata Shri Srimad Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Tvadiya Avirbhav Tithi Maha Mahotsav Ki Jai. Anand Koti Vaishnav Vrinda Ki Jai. Samagata Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Nitai Gaur Hari Hari Bo. So Yashodanandan Prabhu or Manjulali Didi will put up Shri Rupa Manjari Pada as Kirtan. I discussed with Yashodanandan Prabhu to sing that today, as Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada requested Srila Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Goswami Maharaj to sing this Kirtan when he was in his final moments. And so as a celebration or as a remembrance of Srila Sridhar Maharaj, we will sing this Kirtan today. I'll quickly read the translation. The lotus feet of Sri Rupa Manjari are my treasure. As you noticed, I made a shorter Jayadvani to save time. They are the veritable purpose of my bhajan and worship. Her lotus feet are the wealth of my life. They are the ornament of my life and indeed the very life of my life. Her lotus feet are the treasure house of rasa, the attainment of my desires and the conclusion of all the Vedas. Her lotus feet are the goal of my vows and austerities, the object of my recitation of mantra, and the purpose of all my religious activities. When providence becomes favorable, I shall attain Shri Rupa Manjari's lotus feet and behold them with these two eyes. The abundant sweet beauty of Shri Rupa Manjari's lotus feet will shine like the moon upon the blue lotus of my heart, causing it to blossom in jubilation both day and night. Your absence from my vision is like a snake that has corroded my body with poison. The remaining days of my life will pass in the burning fire of separation. Alas, O Sri Rupa Goswami, be merciful and give me the shade of your lotus feet. There, Narottam is taking shelter. Shri Rupa Manjari Pada Sei Mora Sampada. Shri Rupa Manjari Pada Sei Mora Sampada. Sei Mora Bhajana Pujana. Sei Mora Prana Dhana. Sei Mora Yabharana. Sei Mora Jiva Nirjivana. Sei Mora Rasanidhi. Sei Mora Vancha Siddhi. Sei Mora Vedera Dharma. sei brata, sei tapa, sei mora mantra japa, sei mora dhara kara. अनुकूला हबे विधि से पदे होइबे सिद्धि निरखिब ए दुई नयने से रूप मधुरी राशि प्राण कुवलय शशि प्रफुल्लित हबे निशिदिने भुवाय दर्शन यहि गरले जारल देहि चिरदिन तापित जीवन महाप्रभु कर दया देह मोरे पद छाया नरोत्तम लइलो शरण रे हाँ प्रभु कर दया देह मोरे पद छाया हाँ प्रभु कर दया देह मोरे पद छाया नरोत्तम लइलो शरण अधम लइलो शरण जय श्री रूप मंजरी जय श्री रूप मंजरी श्री रूप मंजरी जय श्री रूप मंजरी जय रूप गोस्वामी प्रभु रूप गोस्वामी जय रूप गोस्वामी जय भक्ति रक्षक जय श्रीधर गोस्वामी भक्ति रक्षक जय श्रीधर गोस्वामी जय भक्ति रक्षक जय श्रीधर गोस्वामी भक्ति रक्षक जय श्रीधर गोस्वामी हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल निताई गौर हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल निताई गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल
Hari Bol, Ramanand Prabhu, thank you so much. And thank you for jumping in at the last moment there. Very much appreciated. Vanchakapa Turvischa, Kripasindu Evacha, Patitanam Pavanabhya, Vaishnavabhya, Namamaha. Om Gyan Tanamandasya, Ganjana Salakaya, Chakshur Militam Yena, Tashmai Shri Guru Maha. Trinadapi Sunichina, Taro Api Saishuna, Amanina Manarena, Kitni Sadahari. Tatenu Kampam Susamik Shamano, Bunjavatma Kritam Vipakam. Hitvak Vapudevidam Namaste, Jivata Yomukti Sadaya Bak, Vachavigam, Manushakuravigam, Jivavigam, Rurapastavigam, Etam Vigam Yovisheheta Dira, Savamapimam Pritvim Sasisyat, Anya Balasata Sunyam, Yan Kamadyanavritam, Anu Kalanya Krishnushinam. Bhakti Utama Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadata Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, beautiful, wonderful devotees. I offer my Dandavat pranams to my Srila Gurudev, Srila Bhaktivedanta Naranga Swami Maharaj, Srila Prabhupada, to the entire Parampara, to Sri Raghunath Das Goswami, Sri Rupa Goswami, to Lord Nityananda, to Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Sri Radha and Krishna, and offer my Shristanga Dandavats also to all of the assembled devotees, all the Zumbies, spelt B-E-E-S, the Zumbies, all the devotees who are going to be watching this on YouTube and Facebook and on recordings. Haribol Dandavat Pranams. It is Kartik, 2021, Gurudev's 100th appearance year. It is day 11 and it's the 30th October 2021, and it's another relishable day of Harikatha from our illustrious Maharajas, Sripad, Bhakti, Nemi, Maharaj and Srila Bhaktivedanta, Sripad Bhaktivedanta Tridandi Maharaj, who are so kindly giving this Harikatha so authentically and so heartily on a daily basis. And I think also we have another guest appearance from Sriman Prakashatma Prabhu as well today. So we have triple billing. Today we will be honoring the appearance day of Pujyapada Srila Bhakti Raksaka Srila Maharaj. It's his appearance festival. We'll also be remembering, I saw in there, remembering Sriman Gopinath Prabhu, which is very sweet, and visiting Sri Jharu-mandal and Sri Radha Syamasundara. And forgive me if I'm repeating what Ramananda may have said, because I was just on the phone trying to deal with something, a technical issue. But that song actually is a very incredibly meaningful song to Srila Gurudev. If you've listened to Gurudev's recording of that song, it's absolutely heart-rendering. And it is the song that Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada, when he was in his disappearance pastimes, he actually asked Bhakti Raksaka Srila Maharaj to sing that bhajan. So it's a very special bhajan, and now we're singing it on the appearance day of the Kirtaniya who sung it. Just a small technical announcement, I'll be saying this a couple of times today, is that tomorrow morning at 2 a.m., yeah, don't worry, we're not broadcasting at 2 a.m., we haven't gone mad, but tomorrow at 2 a.m., the clocks go back in the UK and in Europe. So what that means is if you're in America, we will now be, you'll tune in 1 hour later. So if you're in America, you tune in 1 hour later for 1 week. It only lasts until next Saturday. It's a bit complicated, but never mind. And if you are in India and watching this, then you'll be 1 hour later. And if you're in Australia or New Zealand watching it, you'll also be 1 hour later. So for India, New Zealand, Australia, you'll be 1 hour later permanently. For America, you'll be 1 hour sooner, later, yes, also later for 1 week. So I hope I haven't confused everybody. If you're in Europe, it's the same time. And of course, in the UK, you'll be at the same time because you would have changed your clocks as well, we hope. Okay, so I will now hand over to our beloved Sripad Bhaktivedanta Tridandi Maharaj for his usual beautiful where we're going today, showing us on the map and just generally contextualizing. Haribol Maharaj, Dandavat Pranams.
Dandavat Shishoda, Dandavat, Hare Krishna. Actually today, Pujyapada Nemi Maharaj will speak first in glorification of Srila Bhakti Raksaka Srila Maharaj. We're remaining in our Gopinath Bhavan today, and we'll just be walking around the back of Gopinath Bhavan to visit Radha Syamasundara and Jharu-mandal. So those two places are very close together, but that's just a little walk from where we are in Gopinath Bhavan. So we're not actually going anywhere. We're not taking a bus. We're just going to be sitting tight in Gopinath Bhavan today. So now Bhaktivedanta Nemi Maharaj will offer his Pushpanjali to the lotus feet of our beloved Srila Bhakti Rakshak Sridhara Swami. Sridhara Maharaj, Bhakti Rakshak Sridhara Maharaj. Jai Nemi Maharaj. Danyavat Pranams. Okay, Yashoda? This is the order.
100%,
oh,
go for it.
He's muted. You've muted him. Yashoda, you have to unmute.
Hare Krishna. Power of speech is one of the Vedic elements. Om Jnanatimirandhasya Gyananjana Shlaka Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Mam Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namane Namam Vishnupadaya Radhikaya Priyatmane Shri Srimad Bhaktivedanta Narayaniti Namane Namam Vishnupadaya Gaura Prestaya Bhutale Shri Srimad Bhakti Vigyam Bharati Iti Namane Vansha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripasindrubhyacha Putitanam Pavnebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shadvaita Gadadhar Shivasati Shivoktavita. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama. of my humble obeisances and my beloved Diksha Guru, Nityalila Bhavishya Shishima Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj, Srila Prabhupada, my beloved Shiksha and Sannyas Guru, Rupanugavara Shishima Bhaktivedanta Narayana Swami Maharaj, my beloved Shiksha Guru, Shri Bhaktivedanta Bharati Maharaj, of my humble obeisances, unlimited humble obeisances at the lotus feet of Srila Bhakti Raksaka Sridhara Goswami Maharaj, all the acharyas now Rupa Nurupa Guru Varga, and to all devotees present, listening, and everywhere, headed by Tridandigan, senior devotees, Pujyapada, Tridandi Maharaj, and all others. Hare Krishna. So today, we're glorifying Srila Bhakti Raksaka Sridhara Goswami Maharaj on the blessed occasion of his appearance day. Srila Sridhara Maharaj is a very prominent member of Gaudiya Math, very prominent disciple of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, very prominent personality in my Guru Maharaj's life in Gaudiya Math and afterwards, also in the life of my beloved Guru Dev, Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayana Goswami Maharaj. Here's a picture of him. Any other pictures you have? There's another one of him sitting in the armchair.
I just have this one, but I can look for the other one you were mentioning.
Okay, thank you. Here it comes. Srila Bhakti Raksaka Sridhara, our Param Gurudev, Srila Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Goswami Maharaj, he, after Srila Saraswati Prabhupada passed away, Saraswati Prabhupada appeared in a dream and revealed the whole sannyas ceremony to Srila Param Gurudev. And his name was announced, Srila Keshav Maharaj. So they looked in the list of sannyas names, and sure enough, Keshav is one of the 108 sannyas names. So Srila Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Goswami Maharaj, on the blessed occasion of Vishwarup Mahotsav, he received sannyas from Srila Bhakti Raksaka Sridhara Goswami Maharaj at Katwa, the place where Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu received sannyas. Srila Sridhara Maharaj received sannyas directly from Srila Saraswati Prabhupada. So then he gave sannyas to Srila Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Goswami Maharaj. In due course, Srila Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Goswami Maharaj gave sannyas to our beloved Gurudev, Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayana Goswami Maharaj. And later on in 2004, he very kindly gave me sannyas also. So I'm coming actually in that line. He is my sannyas, great-grandfather, something like that, Srila Sridhar Maharaj. He's very important in the development of Krishna consciousness in the West. After my Guru Maharaj passed away, my Guru Maharaj, of course, was the first really to preach very extensively in the West. There were other preachers who came, but they didn't have such an extensive impact. So after my Guru Maharaj passed away, before that, he said that devotees could take shelter of Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayana Goswami Maharaj and Srila Bhakti Raksaka Sridhara Goswami Maharaj. So Srila Bhakti Raksaka Sridhara Goswami Maharaj being a generation older by age and by spiritual generations. So the devotees naturally came to him and they sought his advice, and he gave them advice. Especially he gave advice to the GBC and the representatives. Before my Guru Maharaj had passed away, he had given instructions to 11 of his prominent disciples that they should give initiation on his behalf while he was still on the planet. And then afterwards, they announced that they had become gurus, which was not actually my Guru Maharaj's intention. But anyway, so Srila Bhakti Raksaka Sridhara Goswami, he gave advice to them. And after some time, they rejected his advice and actually vilified him. So many prominent members of ISKCON actually went literally over the river, and they took shelter of Srila Bhakti Raksaka Goswami Maharaj, and he gave them his beautiful teachings and encouraged them in their preaching. I don't know that he actually wrote many books, but his disciples and followers, they produced very, very beautiful books from his talks, his lectures. And one of the very prominent books is Shri Guru and His Grace. I read it one day. I found it on my Kindle when I was riding in the underground. And I started reading, I just couldn't stop. I was reading when I went out through the barrier. I was going to the Ganga Matas actually. And I just reading and reading and reading. I read the whole thing right the way through. Amazing, beautiful book. Very extremely practical, very insightful, full of Shastric references. It's a beautiful like instruction for post-prominent Acharya times. Guru Tattva, how to find Guru, whether one should take that position or not. So Srila Bhakti Raksaka Goswami Maharaj, he was born in a very aristocratic Brahminical family. And the first time that he came to the Gaudiya Math, our Gurudev loved to relate this pastime, that he came to Sri Chaitanya Gaudiya Math. No, he came to Sri Chaitanya Math in Mayapur. And one of the first things he saw, there was a jackfruit tree there. And there was a young brahmachari in white with his feet up on the table. And different people were coming up to him. He was like in reflection. Different people would come up to him, even sannyasis, and they'd offer their respects, and he'd give them some instructions, and they'd offer respects and go away. So Srila Sridhara Maharaj, I forget his name at that time. So he was curious, who is this young person? Oh, this is Vinod Brahmachari. So that was our Param Gurudev. So he was senior by membership of Gaudiya Math. But in the end, after Saraswati Prabhupada's disappearance, he actually received sannyas from Srila Bhakti Raksaka Goswami Maharaj. Not because he was less qualified, but because the other prominent godbrothers didn't want Srila Saraswati Prabhupada to give him sannyas, because they said that the whole management would collapse if Srila Bhakti Keshav Goswami Maharaj received sannyas. So he received only after the disappearance of Srila Saraswati Prabhupada. He received Harinam in April of 1926, and then Diksha in August of 1926. Not long. And then in 1930, Srila Saraswati Prabhupada, he was very, very satisfied with him, and he awarded him sannyas. So he was deeply respected, deeply loved. His difficult to express, his beautiful presence. Unfortunately, I never had his darshan. But his beautiful presence on the planet, his, on the one hand, aristocratic Brahminical qualities, on the other hand, complete humility. Srila Bhakti Pramod Puri Goswami Maharaj, he mentioned that although he was such a, he was born in such an elevated family, to us that doesn't, in the West, maybe that doesn't make so much sense, but in India it makes a great deal of sense. He was very elevated personality, but he expressed that elevation in his deep humility. On one occasion, there was a meeting to discuss Vaishnava Siddhanta, and he was requested to be chairman. So when he stood on the podium and he began his chairmanship, he said, actually, I'm not qualified to be chairman here, but anyway, on the request of my learned colleagues, I'm accepting this position. So then when there were two spokesmen, one was speaking for Dvaitavad, means Vaishnava philosophy, and the other one was speaking for Advaitavad, means impersonal philosophy. So the first person to speak, this person who's speaking on behalf of Vaishnava philosophy, he praised Srila Sridhar Maharaj's humility. And he said, Vaishnavas are naturally humble. He said, they always say, Dasosmi, I'm your servant. And Advaitavadins, they're all so arrogant, because they say, Aham Brahmasmi, I am Brahman. So, and then he began his speech refuting Advaitavad, non-dualism. Srila Bhakti Raksaka Sridhar Goswami Maharaj, he was a very prominent author. He was a great poet, Vaishnava poet. He wrote his stotram, reciting almost all of the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya in verse. And that's still recited. It's long, it's beautiful. And then other very prominent, beautiful poems, like, for example, his poem, Sri Prabhupada Padmastava, for the lotus feet of Srila Saraswati Prabhupada. Extraordinary poetic structure. The last word of the first line becomes the first word of the next line, and the last word of that line becomes the first word of the next line, third line, and then the last word of each third line is padam. And then pranamami padam, pranamami sada, Prabhupada padam. Beautiful poetry, and very, very beautiful. Srila Saraswati Prabhupada loved that poem, and he said that it should be sung in different mats. He wrote others as well, many other beautiful poems in Sanskrit. He, on one occasion, this is before they all received sannyas, Srila Hayagriva Das Brahmachari, who later became Srila Bhakti-Dad Madhav Goswami Maharaj, Srila Bhakti Sarup Das Brahmachari, who later became Sri Bhakti Srirup Siddhanti Maharaj, and Srila Bhakti Raksaka Sridhar Goswami Maharaj. I don't remember if he'd taken sannyas at that time or not. So they went to a place in India for preaching in Bengal. And the first night, Sri Sarup Brahmachari, he gave a very confrontational presentation. He said that Vivekananda, he derived the name of that for one as one Vivek Ananda, one who delights in being ignorant. And wasn't it Ramakrishna Paramahansa? He said he's Ramahansa, which means he's a useless swan, and very derogative, very derogative. And the people in the audience became very, very irritated. They started distributing leaflets condemning the Gaudiya Math. So the judge called the members of the group, and he said, you know, we should finish this. It was due to go on for another 2 or 3 days. We should finish this immediately because I'm afraid for your safety. But I agree with Das Brahmachari, Srila Dayat Madhav Goswami Maharaj, later. He said, well, tomorrow we will continue, but actually just the two of us will speak. Yesterday's speaker will not speak. So the judge agreed in the end. And then Srila, let me give you his name, his present name, Srila Bhakti Dayat Madhav Goswami Maharaj, he told everybody that we're now continuing in our talk. He was the chairman, and he handed over to Srila Sridhar Maharaj. So Srila Sridhar Maharaj, he was very gentle, very mild. And in such a sweet way, he said, I know there's been complaints about the address yesterday. And actually, Yes. The words were rough, but the message was correct. He said, our Gaudiya Vaishnava philosophy, it's superior to all the other philosophers, all the other Bhagavat philosophers. And not only that, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has established a philosophy which is superior to even to the other sampradayas. So in presenting this, he said, we're not going to speak like ladies speaking very shyly from behind our veil. We have to come out and speak the truth. So then naturally, and then he began to point out the defects in the philosophy of Vivekananda and Ramakrishna. And he said, how can we not challenge these teachings? Of course, we may do so in a gentle way or a forceful way, but in any case, we have to. And then he explained the defects. So at the end, the audience was absolutely delighted. They gave tremendous applause, and they requested that they continue for another 15 days there. Sridhara Maharaj is a very, very beautiful speaker. My Guru Maharaj, when he was living in Prayag, still in his family life and still engaged in business, so Srila Maharaj actually lived with him for quite a long time. And they used to go out, three of them used to go out together. My Guru Maharaj, Srila Maharaj, and Srila Goswami Maharaj. So Goswami Maharaj, he was the most prominent collector in the Gaudiya Math. He was very, very talented at receiving donations. And Srila Madhav Maharaj, I think he was the second. So the three of them would go out. My Guru Maharaj, he would introduce them to his various business associates, because he knew, obviously, he knew the wealthy people in town. He would introduce them. Then Srila Maharaj would give very, very, very sweet and charming Harikatha. And then Srila Goswami Maharaj would ask for the donation. So in this way, they were collecting for the Gaudiya Math. My Guru Maharaj had a long, close association. He actually, at one point, when his family life became very unruly, and on one occasion he came back from work and he couldn't find his Bhagavatam. He asked his wife, "Where's my Bhagavatam? I can't find it." She said, "Oh, I needed biscuits to eat with my tea. So we didn't have any money in the house, so I sold the Bhagavatam to get some biscuits." So my Guru Maharaj says, "So if you had to choose between tea and me, which would you choose?" And she said, "Tea, probably." So very soon after that, my Guru Maharaj, he saw a dream. Saraswati Prabhu told him to take sannyas, and he came right in the middle of the night, knocking on Srila Maharaj's door, requesting sannyas immediately. Srila Maharaj didn't agree externally because he knew the family so closely, so there would have been problems. But internally, because actually my Guru Maharaj, in the spiritual world, his close connection is with Srila Bhakti Kesha Goswami Maharaj and our Gurudev. Srila Maharaj was present when Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur was preparing to leave. And he's very, very advanced, extremely advanced Vaishnava, but he was not such a practiced Kirtaniya. So Srila Saraswati Prabhu specifically asked him to sing Sri Rupa Manjari Pada. This is just like just a very short time before my Guru Maharaj left this world. Srila Gurudev came with Sheshai Brahmachari. And Sheshai Brahmachari, he was a prominent singer at Keshaji Gaudiya Math in Mathura. So he sang Shri Rupa Manjari Pada for my Guru Maharaj. And then our Gurudev sang Hari Hari Kabe Hoibe Sudina. So Saraswati Prabhupada asked, told Srila Maharaj to sing. But others around there, they thought, well, actually, there's another more accomplished kirtaniya here. So they asked another devotee, prominent sannyasi, to sing. He began singing, and Saraswati Prabhu said, no, Srila Maharaj should sing. So this was like his parting gift. Saraswati Prabhupada. So, as I said, he's provided shelter. His beautiful presentation of Vaishnava philosophy, in relationship to Western philosophy. He was very keen to read Heidegger and Kant and one other German philosopher, I've forgotten.
Hegel.
Ah, Hegel, yeah, especially Hegel. Very different. And he went further than my Guru Maharaj. My Guru Maharaj pointed clearly to Braj Bhakti as the ideal. But how to achieve Braj Bhakti, he didn't go into detail because we weren't at that time qualified. Srila Maharaj specifically mentioned Manjari Bhav, which my Guru Maharaj didn't mention specifically. And he said, your Guru Maharaj, he said he has left us. He's classifying himself, this is his humility, he's classifying himself as an ignorant junior. He said he's left us a treasure in trust. It's kept in an iron chest. But at least we should know what is in that chest. So what he meant was that the iron chest is Vaidhi Bhakti. And what's in that, what treasure, that's Braj Bhakti. So he explained a little about Braj Bhakti, and he explained about Manjari Bhav, who are the Manjaris, what is their speciality, and so on. And then our Gurudev, he really displayed that treasure fully. So Srila Gurudev also was, every year he would go with his Guru Maharaj to visit after Gaur Purnima. He would visit Srila Maharaj. So they had a very affectionate relationship. So on this day of his appearance, I'm offering my obeisance at his lotus feet. And I'm praying for his mercy to advance in bhakti and to serve my teachers and our Gaudiya mission. Srila Bhakti Rakshaka Srila Goswami Maharaj ki jai. Hare Krishna. Vancha kalpatrubhasya kripasanam Putitanam bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo namaha.
Dandavats Maharaj, very, very beautiful. He's definitely one of my favorite personalities. I think I remember when I came over to see you in
Ukraine.
What's that place called in Ukraine? Something.
Dnepropetrovsk, but they changed the name.
Dnepropetrovsk, the only name that's more difficult than Vaishnava names. I think I was reading it when I came to see you. It's amazing. Somehow he inhabits this rare land of being between prose and poetry. So when you're reading his writing, it's not prose, but it's not poetry, but it's somewhere in between it. It's very, very wonderful.
His English is extraordinary.
Incredible, very
unique.
That's the amazing thing about these Vaishnavas. They all have this most incredible English, and yet each, like Bhakti Saraswati Prabhupada's English is phenomenal, but it's different. Each one has a different style, and yet they're same and different. I thought when you were going to tell us the story of the London Underground, we have, for those who don't live in London, we have a circle line that goes round and round and round. I thought you were going to say you ended up going round and round and round until you'd finished the book. That would have been it. I think you should just embellish the story that way, Maharaj.
How could I tell an untruth in glorifying our Vaishnava acharyas? What a dastardly suggestion.
That poem you were mentioning, can you just give me the name again and tell me, just touch on that guitar a little bit again, because that was very...
The poem beautiful. About Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu.
Yeah, it was just after when you were talking about that presentation between Dvaita and Advaita, and you mentioned about the poem.
I'm ashamed to say that I don't remember the exact name of the poem.
Oh,
But it's long. It's long. I mean, it's a long versification of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastimes.
okay.
Something Deva Stotram.
If you find it at any point, please do share it with me. I'd be really really interested. And I also loved what you said about, I love what I call ontological history, you know, this kind of process of revelation that Prabhupada came and this iron chest idea, and then Bhakti Raksaka Sridhar Maharaj gave us, revealed a bit. He didn't, it's not a question if he gave us more, he revealed more. It was already there, of course. And then Srila Gurudev has given the pinnacle. It's just a wonderful.
He hasn't given the pinnacle.
Ah.
He's pointed to the pinnacle.
Who? Srila Gurudev.
Our Gurudev. He said, there's so much I want to give, but you're not ready. You will have to take birth with the acharyas back and back and back and back in different universes. He hasn't given the pinnacle yet.
Narayan Maharaj said that.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, that's beautiful. Well, I think on that note, on that very hungry note, I think that's a great point to move on. That's beautiful, Maharaj. Thank you. I'm going to put that with a red line around it. That's very beautiful. Okay, so we are going from the illustrious climes of Hackney, London, to the holy land of Navadvip and Mayapur. We're going over the banks of the Ganga to Godrum, to our, no, we're not actually. No, we're not. I got the order wrong. We're going to somewhere in France. Yes, you're quite right. We're going somewhere in France, and our dearmost Sriman Prakashatma Prabhu is going to be speaking on
Prakashatma.
Sorry, I'm terrible, aren't I? Prakashatma. See, yeah. Prakashatma. Dandavats pranams, Prabhu. Sorry for mispronouncing your name. I shall practice better. And over to you, Prabhu, for some more glorification of this wonderful personality. Haribol. You can unmute yourself now.
Hare Krishna. I live in Paris, by the way.
Ah,
just across the channel.
Oui, c'est un petit voyage, hein? Mais à ce moment, c'est un grand voyage.
Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Gurave Gurachandraya Radhikaye Tadaraye Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tad Bhaktaya Namo Namaha. So I offer my Dandavat Pranam to my beloved Diksha Guru, His Divine Grace is Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, and the same to my Shiksha Guru, His Divine Grace Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj, and the same with His Divine Grace Bhakti Raksaka Sridhara Goswami Maharaj. And it is his birthday today, his appearance day. I have to say that I feel I always had a special relationship with Sri Bhakti Raksaka Sridhara Goswami Maharaj, because when my Guru Maharaj Srila Prabhupada left in 1977, for a little while, for me it was still okay. I missed Srila Prabhupada, and I was living in the London Bury Place Temple at that time, and then afterwards I moved to the US and Canada. And in 1983, I was feeling really lost. I felt I had no shelter, and I was kind of very much depressed, actually. And a friend of mine has taken shelter from Bhakti Raksaka Sridhara Goswami Maharaj, and he gave me one of his books. One of the first books that was published, The Search for Sri Krishna, Reality the Beautiful. And in the very beginning of that book, Sridhara Maharaj, he was saying everyone is searching for rasa, pleasure, happiness. And we want individual happiness, but is also Krishna is actually incarnating all the happiness. He's Akila Mrita Murti. Gonna get it. And so we should be searching for him. In the Vedanta Sutra, the very first sutra, it says, Atato Brahma Jigyasa, now is the time to inquire about the absolute. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he came to say that we have to look for Sri Krishna. We have to search for Sri Krishna. This Brahma Jigyasa is kind of a dry logic and dry search. And we want rasa. Krishna is rasa. So actually this is Atato Rasa Jigyasa, Raso Vaisa. The origin of all rasa, of all happiness, is Krishna, and we have to look for him. So I'm just going to read a short passage because this really struck on me. This is the beginning of that book, The Search for Shri Krishna. Srila Maharaj is saying, the Vedas say, Shrin Bantu Vishve Amritasya Putra. O you sons of nectar, son of the nectarine ocean sea, please listen to me. You were born in nectar, you were born to test nectar, and you must not allow yourself to be satisfied by anything but nectar. So however misguided you may be for the time being, awake, arise, search for that nectar, that satisfaction. The Vedas tell us Om. Om means a big yes. What you are searching for, that is, don't be disappointed. The Vedas say that the object of your inner search exists. The common search of all your hearts is existing, and your thirst will be quenched. By your constitution, you are meant for that, and you deserve that, so don't be afraid. You have to search for Shri Krishna, reality the beautiful. And this is just the introduction of the book. And when I read this, it was like a bomb. It literally blew my mind because I was so depressed. And here is a Vaishnava who said, don't be depressed. Whatever you're looking for is inside you. And I went on reading. And of course, at that time, we did not know. We just heard a little bit about Sridhara Maharaj. It was one senior Vaishnava leader from Srila Prabhupada Jaitirtha Prabhu, who actually made him known to us by going to see him and having all his disciples, practically these new people coming, initiated by Sridhara Maharaj. And we, at some time also, I read a letter that Pradyumna Prabhu, he was a Sanskritist, Prabhupada. He was always traveling with Srila Prabhupada, and Prabhupada was calling him Panditji because he knew Sanskrit, and he asked him, please finish the translation of the Srimad Bhagavatam with the purport, but the purport should be done by Sridhara Maharaj. So Pradyumna Prabhu, he writes this because at one point, the GBC didn't want him to do the translation. He was complaining, saying, Prabhupada gave me a direct order. And he said that Sridhar Maharaj, Bhakti-Rakshak Sridhar Goswami Maharaj should finish the purports of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Can you imagine if actually this has been done, what difference it will have made? So anyway, this is all we knew. And the other thing is that one sources of my distress was that where can I find Krishna outside of the institution? But here Sridhar Maharaj, he was saying it's within you. Krishna and his prema is within you. And then he goes on, what is Krishna consciousness? It means love and beauty, not selfishness, not exploitation. We see beauty and we want to exploit it. But actually, beauty is the exploiter. It is the master that we have to serve. And what is love? Love means sacrifice. In Vrindavan, the devotees are ready to sacrifice everything for Krishna. We see an example of the gopis. They sacrifice their homes, They sacrificed their children in the meaning they left behind their home, they left behind their children, not like they offer and sacrifice. They left their husband, and even they sacrificed their own dignity and fame, reputation, everything, just to please Krishna, because this is the meaning. We have come to please Krishna. He has called us, he needs us. And this is the call. Krishna is calling us so we can participate in being his servant. If we don't have this, what can we expect? This is still Sridhara Maharaj speaking in that book. The only thing we can expect is death. He's saying, you are so proud of your scientific advancement, scientific civilization, but all you do is exploit nature and endanger the fate of the world, just to fulfill this obsessional desire to have more comfort. Then we increase pollution and war, pandemia, social unrest, unemployment. Those examples I give myself just to make the connection. But he's saying that there's nothing that will satisfy us on the outside. And we have to turn inside. We have to go deep within. Just like if you want to have some pearls, you have to dive very, very deep in the ocean, at the bottom of the ocean. If you stay just on the surface, just to play with the waves, you will never get the pearls. So similarly, you have to dive very deep within in order to understand, to see that truth. Who are you? Where you come from? What is the real nature of this world? Srila Bhakti Raksaka Srila Goswami, he's asking those questions, saying that the Quran, the Bible, the Veda, they are giving us some hope, some hint about this important question. So is it all a hoax? And what do materialistic people have given us? This civilization is only good for self-deceivers, those who like to deceive themselves. It has no value. And in the Bhagavad Gita set the example of how we should always look within instead of looking outside. We should not try to change our environment. Srila Maharaj is saying, we have to change ourselves. The environment will not be changed. Actually, this is a basic philosophical concept that many philosophers like Spinoza and others have said. All our problems, all our suffering is because we think that the world should adjust to ourselves, that it should adjust to our desires. But we have to adjust to the world. And so in the same way, Paramahamsa Vaishnav, he says that everything is all right in the world. He finds nothing to complain about. Everything is actually divine. Ishabashyam idam sarvam. Everything has been done by the Lord and for the Lord. Everything, he's the proprietor of everything. We make this common mistake to think that the world has been created for us, for our enjoyment. But actually, this is not true. The world has been created for the enjoyment of Bhagavan. He's the only enjoyer. And as long as we don't understand, but actually this is a lila for him, and we should participate willingly in this lila, we'll suffer. We'll suffer because we want something that doesn't belong to us, and we want to enjoy. And actually the real enjoyer is Bhagavan. So everything is working by divine grace. Everything that is provided is divine grace. The disease is in our eyes. Even if there are obstacles, we should tolerate those obstacles. Even if someone is attacking us, insulting us, we should practice forbearance and not retaliate like we are used to do. So then, Srila Bhakti Raksaka Sridhara Goswami, he was very fond of saying, die to live. He said that comes from ego. I suppose in some, because I read ego, I suppose in the phenomenology of the spirit, he's speaking about how the past must die in order for the new to survive. But he summarized it, Sridhar Maharaj summarized it, die to live. the ego must die so the soul can live. Then he speaks about Jesus because he's speaking to some Christians. And he says, yes, Jesus practiced this die to live. Literally, he died on the cross so that other people can live, so that the soul can live. But Christianity is incomplete Vaishnavism because there's no real description of God. God is hazy. It doesn't have a complete full description. They said Trinity, God the Father, God the Son, God the Holy Ghost or Holy Spirit. But the problem with this is that the ghost or the spirit may be just impersonal Brahman. And the Father is the figure of someone who serves us. We pray to the Father so we can get some bread. But it is much higher to serve the Father, to be in a service mood instead of asking always for bread. Then ultimately, we have to come to a much higher conclusion. There's this story that I heard. It is in this connection when Mahatma Gandhi was living in south of Africa. He was very much attracted to Christianity and he wanted to convert himself. So he went to a church and they saying that I'm a Hindu by birth, but I want to convert to Christianity because there's some description of love that is very appealing to me, and love your neighbor, love God, and like this. And they told him, you are in a white church, you're not allowed to enter. You have to go to a black church. Black not allowed here. This was the apartheid. And so later on, he went back to India and he also saw the behavior of some Christian British. And his conclusion was, Christianity is very good, but there are many bad Christians. Of course, we can say that about practically everybody. Even some devotees can be bad devotees also. But if you don't know what God is, what is the soul is, there's no way you can actually be sincere in your worship. That is the meaning. Ultimately, you have to give up. I'm coming back to Srila Maharaj. You have to give up all kinds of religion, like Bhagavad Gita is saying, Sarva dharmam parityaja mamekam sharanam braja ahanvam sarva papebhyo mokshai shamisa chucha. Sarva dharmam parityaja, you just abandon all kinds of dharma, all kinds of religion, and please surrender to me. But Srila Bhakti Raksaka Sridhara Goswami, he's translating braja, sharanam braja, come to Braj. Leave everything behind and come to Braj. So this is a very deep understanding of how different religion can lead. Ultimately, he says maybe Jesus, he may have come to our line, to the line of Vaishnavism. And Srila Gurudev, he said that Jesus actually went to Vrindavan. He said that. And he got the name of Krishna. He liked this name, Krishna, and he said, I will be called Christ. Okay, this is what Gurudev is saying. And so another thing in this book, The Search for Reality, the Beautiful, when I read about the origin of the soul, Sridhar Maharaj is saying clearly that the soul comes from Brahma Jyoti. And it makes so much sense to me at that time, because how can it fall from Goloka Vrindavan? He's the first one to have spread this idea that we don't fall from Goloka Vrindavan. He's saying Brahma Jyoti, because we can fall from Brahma Jyoti, because we don't serve. Of course, our Srila Gurudev is saying differently. We come from Mahavishnu. That is okay. But still, Srila Maharaj is the first one. Then Srila Govinda Maharaj also, he said, we don't come from Brahma Jyoti. Then Srila Gurudev and all Gaudiya Math. But this was a clear distinction from what we've heard. And then he also speaks about the different levels of devotees according to the Brihad Bhagavatamritam. In this little book, there's so many information. In this little book, he speaks, like Srila Gurudev will speak so much on the Brihad Bhagavatamritam. And he is giving in a nutshell, saying how there's a gradual progression of bhakti. Bhakti is endless, actually. There's knowledge is endless. That's why he can say that Christianity is not accomplished. It is some kind of Vaishnavism, but incomplete. And there's always some deeper truth to it. So he's saying how the Brahmana worshiping the Srila, Narada Muni, he was wanting to know what is the absolute worship. So he saw this Brahmana worshiping the Srila, then he get acquainted with him. And this Brahmana is saying, no, 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 I'm not worshiping the Supreme with sincere devotion. You have to go to the king of Puri, who is in charge of Jagannath Puri. And so he goes there and he serves. Eventually, he becomes actually the head priest of Jagannath Puri. But then he hears that actually there's a higher deity in heaven and worshipped by Indra. And he wants to go to heaven. And because he's reciting this Gopal mantra, then immediately he goes to heaven. And then from heaven, then he hears that there's a higher God, Brahma, who is the creator of the world. So he goes to go to Brahma. He also becomes Brahma eventually. Then he goes after that to see Shiva. Then after that, he goes to see Prahlad Maharaj. Shivaji is saying, no, no, you're praising me, but it's not good. You have to see, Narada Muni doesn't become Brahma. I'm sorry, I make a mistake with this Gopal Kumar. He just visits different places because the story repeats itself in the Brihad Bhagavatamritam. This is Gopal Kumar who actually become the king of Puri, then he becomes Indra, then he becomes Brahma. But Narada Muni, he keeps his identity. Then after Prahlad Maharaj, the Pandavas, then Uddhava, and ultimately the Gopis, ultimately Srimati Radhika. And this is already given in a nutshell by Srila Bhakti Rakshak Sridhara Goswami Maharaj. He was giving so much information, so much jewels. And this idea of Brihad Bhagavatamritam, now with Gopakumar, this is the idea that he gave to Srila Prabhupada to this big planetarium they're building in ISKCON Mayapur. Actually, it is based on the story of Gopakumar going from one place to the next to the high, not like a map of the universe according to Puranic laws, but more like a spiritual progression to the highest goal, because this is what he's speaking. He gave so many wealth, and like it was said before, he didn't write necessarily those books. It was from speeches, from encounters with devotees. They compile all these very beautiful books, Shri Guru and His Grace. And then there's another little book concerning the explanation of the Gayatri mantra and how Gayatri actually is Srimati Radhika. And he explains exactly with each word how this is explaining. This is Shri Krishna. Deva means Krishna, and then Bharanya and the glow, the effulgence is Srimati Radharani. And he gave such a beautiful definition of this Gayatri mantra that he got the title Deva, Bhakti Rakshak Sridhara Goswami Dev, because he explained how the Brahma Gayatri is not the worshipping of the sun, like some people think, or Brahman, or Surya's son, or Agni, or different Devata, but is actually worshipping of Radha and Krishna. And therefore, this is the highest mantra that you can recite. Of course, after that is Gopal mantra and Kama Gayatri, but this Brahma Gayatri is in the Rig Veda, one of the oldest mantra. And so there's so many other glories, but when I was reading this little book, I remember I remember where I was, but it's like I had a vision.
20 minutes has passed, by the way.
Okay, then I'm finished.
No,
Okay, I just wanted to say that I saw his form in front of me, that he manifested in front of me, literally. I saw his form in front of me, like he was speaking directly to me. And in my heart, I felt like Srila Prabhupada was speaking. He was speaking the same way, even though the language was so different. So thank you very much. And I offer my Dandavat Pranam to all the Vaishnava, Vaishnavi, and to Bhakti Rakshak Sridhara Goswami Maharaj, so I can progress in this path of bhakti. Vansha kalpatarubhya kripa sindhubhya evacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah.
Thank you so much, Sriman Prakashatma Prabhu. That was really beautiful, and thank you. I felt bad cutting you off because actually it was such a relishable sharing. And I really appreciated you being saying how you were depressed after Srila Prabhupada left, and how Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Maharaj really gave you the not just the hope, but also the direction how to continue. And right at the beginning, I underlined it 3 times. Sometimes people say things that cuts through all the complexity of Krishna consciousness into its beautiful, heartly simplicity. And when you said that he had said in his first book, what you read, you said that everybody is searching for us, and we're born in nectar, and we shouldn't be satisfied with anything less. I mean, you couldn't summarize Krishna consciousness up better than that in one sentence. It's so beautiful. Like whenever you're, even momentarily, even if you're having a moment of lethargy or doubt or negativity, you just remember that, and you're like, okay, yes, I know which way to go at every point. It's beautiful. And I know you have been a priest. Are you still an acting Christian priest?
Yeah.
That's amazing. I'd love to talk to you about that song. That's an amazing combination. I remember in Bhagavad Gita classes we used to have in Brighton, there was a lovely couple. I remember talking to them, Angela and Bob, and they were flabbergasted that God's personal. They had no idea that God's personal.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, that's amazing. Beautiful. And I was actually there when Srila Gurudev, we went around the Vatican together, a whole party. And Srila Gurudev was very, very respectful of the Pope. But he got a little bit, when they started talking about the meat-eating pastimes of the Pope, he wasn't so impressed. But he was trying to tell us that we should honor anyone who worships God, in that non-sectarian way. Thank you so much, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
So we're going from La Belle Ville de Paris over to the perhaps less belle, but oh no, sorry, I'm going backwards. We're going to the very belle and the very sweet and the very Madhurya climes of Godrum, where our irrepressible and magnificent Sripad Bhaktivedanta Tridandi Maharaj is smiling at us and ready for his exposition on this great personality. Maharaji, over to you. Haribol.
Thank you. Try to muzzle us all today. Oh, no, you did. Okay, you've muted yourself. Are you supposed to mute yourself, or just can't I hear you? Didn't hear you. Oh, there you go. Okay, open again. Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you. Thank you, Yashoda. You are the irrepressible one. Thank you, Yashoda. Gurave Gaura Chandraya Radhikaya Tadavaye Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tarabhaktaya Namo Namaha. Om Magnat Mirandasya Gyananjala Shalakaya Chakshu Unmilitam Jina Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Bhaktya Vihinara Parara Lakshay Shiptasya Karmadi Taranga Madhye Kripa Mayitvam Sharanam Prapana Brinde Namaste Charana Ravindam Bhajami Radham Aravinda Netram Smarami Radham Madhurashmitasyam Vadami Radham Karuna Baradram Patomamanasti Katina Kapi. I'm first of all offering millions of Dandavat pranams unto the lotus feet of my most beloved Gurudev Nitya Leela Pravishta Om Asto Tarasara Shishimad Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj. And I'm offering the same again millions of times unto the lotus feet of our most beloved Nitya Leela Pravishta Om Asto Tarasara Shishimad Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. And I'm also offering my Dandavat pranams to all our illustrious Rupanuga Guru Vargya, who are totally empowering this mission of Sachinandan Gaura Hari. And I'm particularly offering my gratitude and profound dandavats unto our most beloved Srila Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Dev Goswami, whose appearance day we are celebrating today.
my Dandavat pranams, and my Dandavat pranams to all the Vaishnavas and Vaishnavi devotees of the Lord, headed by the Tridandi Gun, dear Bhaktivedanta Nemi Goswami, Nemi Maharaj, and all the devotees. My Dandavat pranams to you all. Vansha kalpatarubhyascha, kripa sindhavevacha, patitanam pavnibhyo vaishnavebhyo namaha. So today is an exceptional day in our parikrama. We've had many days out in the fields of Braj, wandering around, tuning into the atmosphere, the cows, the sakas, the gopis, the Jamuna, all the incredible forests and the beautiful pastimes that revolve around those forests. And it's been a very packed lila katha that we've been listening to throughout. But today, somehow or other, something else opens out where we get another flavor when we begin to describe the extraordinary glories of this exalted personality, Srila Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Goswami. His glories are extensive, as we've heard from our Bhaktivedanta Nemi Maharaj, as well as our dear Sriman Prakashatma Prabhu. His glories touch the heart of so many sadhaks, Srila Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Maharaj, even though he considered himself, and he would say, after the departure of his beloved Gurudev, that he was somewhat of a backward pushing man. In other words, he wasn't seeking the front place in the preaching world. That wasn't his mood personally. When his beloved Gurudev, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati, was on the planet, he was doing remarkable preaching work in the field. But when Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati left, we know the history. I described it, touched on it just a little bit when we were describing the glories of Srila Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Maharaj, that there was a breakdown practically completely in the institutional concept of the Gaudiya Math, when one party, Kunja Vihari, was taking a court case to Ananta Vasudeva, etc., and the whole Math structure was broken. And at that time, so many personalities left. At that time, Srila Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Maharaj was given the task to try to pacify the two parties and bring them together. His whole mood of Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Maharaj is one of great maturity, great eloquence, great scholarship. This is he was a lawyer previously, before he came to devotional service, but his whole mood was very grave and very gentle and very respectful in all ways, coming from a Brahmin family, etc. So he was listened to by all parties, but he also became exasperated at one point when it just became too obvious that this was not the path that his beloved Gurudev, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati, wanted him personally to tread, because all these persons, Srila Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Maharaj, Srila Bhakti Pramod Puri Maharaj, Srila Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Maharaj, who else? Srila Bhakti Dwight Madhav Maharaj, many prominent sannyasis of Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati, they all left, but they all left independently and individually. It wasn't that they made a collective to decide, yes, we're going to reject this institution that our beloved Gurudev has erected. They all just became disgusted with the acts that were taking place. So Srila Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Maharaj at that time, it's described that he took a house in Navadvip, just as his dear godbrother, Srila Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Maharaj, did the same thing. And Srila Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Maharaj was delving deeper into his own personal bhajan. We can imagine when the such a powerful personality as Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati left this world, how many jewels in the hearts of his followers did he leave with them to unpack? So they were somewhat reflective, mining the wonderful jewels that Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati had mercifully bestowed in their hearts, just like with our beloved Gurudev. So many jewels of nectar needed to be churned and appreciated deeply, significantly, to come to a genuine appreciation of them. Everything about Srila Bhakti Raksaka Sridhara Maharaj, it just it has an atmosphere of genuineness, sincerity, urgent purpose in the realm of sweetest, sublime love and affection and thoughtfulness. In my own personal experience, as we've been hearing from the other two speakers of Nemi Maharaj and Prakashatma, I'll just take a moment just to relate my personal experience. I never met him, but I had my first contact with him in 1980 in Sridhar Mayapur, where I was put on a guard at the GBC meetings that were going on. And we were warned not to let anybody in who had come from the other side of the river from Srila Bhakti Raksaka Sridhara Maharaj. We were told, I was a young devotee in 1980, we were told explicitly that no Bhakti Raksaka Sridhara Maharaj disciples were allowed to come in. And we were at this meeting guarding the doors, and suddenly the doors of the GBC meeting burst open. And one sannyasi, he raced out. And the other sannyasis, they called after him to us, the guards, catch him, don't let him go. So we were running very fast in the night after this sannyasi. We didn't know who he was or what was going on. But basically, he had come from Srila Bhakti Raksaka Sridhara Maharaj, and we were supposed to capture him or something of that nature. But this was the atmosphere, is what I'm just sharing with you, that I was born into, so to speak, in my relationship with Srila Bhakti Raksaka Sridhara Maharaj. He was the opposition, so to speak. This is how I was being programmed. And it wasn't until 1991 when I personally moved to Vrindavan, and I was in family life at that time. And at that time, my wife, she came back in the ashram and she was carrying Sri Guru and his grace. And I said to her, what are you doing reading that book? This is a banned book. You're not supposed to read that book, because this is how we've been trained. And then she turned to me and she said, this is really, really good. So I took it off her just to make sure. And I read it. And I was just completely, like Nemi Maharaj was describing, totally enwrapped, totally intoxicated, more than anything by the gentleness of the language. The language was just absolutely so appealing and gentle and soft and understanding. And from that moment in 91, for the next 2.5 years, I read every single book that Srila Bhakti Raksaka Sridhara Maharaj had available, most of them, as we've already heard, that were written, penned by his followers or those admirers of his, who took his words and created the most incredible books for us. And for me personally, in my experience, it was like I was breaking the bubble of the ISKCON mentality of restrictive thought by allowing this gentle person to open my heart in a very, very special, sacred way. And with that opening, simultaneously, practically, I came in contact with our beloved Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj. So these two things happened in my life simultaneously. So I'm so indebted to the writings in particular, even though he called himself, as I said, a backward pushing man and wasn't preaching in the front line, the amount of energy that he was able to place in the world, or Krishna placed in the world on his behalf. He wasn't advocating publish my books. He wasn't advocating printing my books and sending them away. It was his followers, those who went and heard his divine words. They took his words knowing that they were absolutely relishable jewels, and they were what the people, the devotees at that time needed so much, because by that time, of course, by the early 1990s, Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada had left this world in 77. And as Prakashatma Prabhu was describing, many, certainly of the senior disciples, were somewhat disgruntled by the marginalization they had been receiving and the lack of empathy, basically, and the realness of the teachings being translated into love and affection of this world that we could tangibly absorb. So Srila Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Maharaj, he filled this void. We see, if we want to look at the whole graph, we can say from Sachinandan Gaurahari through Rupa Goswami, and we can appreciate all the different personalities along the way who are adding, contributing to the immense jewels of this Vaishnava tradition, which has come down to us. And certainly, Srila Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Maharaj is a great carrier of these jewels in such a sublime, simple, humble manner. I'm thinking also just like Srila Gaurkishore Das Babaji. He didn't do any very much external preaching at all. And yet he empowered by his character and nature Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati to do the immense amount of preaching work that he did in his life. So it's not always that character who's out the front, who's actually having the final impact in the hearts of the devotees or the sadhaks. It's often just the simple-hearted sincerity of some genuine personality in his contemplation. Srila Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Maharaj, when he was asked various questions, we could see, because there's many videos and footage of his actual giving these beautiful classes, that he would go into a state of contemplation. Any question that was asked him, he would take immensely seriously. And his erudition and grasp of all these Siddhanta and Tattva was at the topmost level. Absolutely. He was a brilliant, brilliant personality. And he had a capacity because he had a capacity to go so deep. This is why when we sang our first bhajan this morning, Shri Rupa Manjari, that Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati had him sing it because of the depth, because it was coming from his heart. We are craving that heart's connection with our journey, with our path. We hear so much tattva, so much siddhanta, etc. And this is absolutely vital to purifying our avidya, our ignorance. But at the same time, the heart must be nourished by genuine sweetness and beauty. Beauty is the highest extreme object. It's the first quality of Krishna. Krishna has 6 qualities, and his first quality is beauty itself. That is considered the angi. It's like the root. And the other qualities, the other 5 qualities are the angas. They're the limbs coming from that root. So beauty. So for me personally, this is really what Srila Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Maharaj capsulates, is this essential softness, gentility, beauty, non-intrusion, non-sort of force. I didn't feel any pushing. And he proclaimed himself that love is a place which cannot be forced. You cannot force the heart. These things have to come naturally by our genuine attraction to these topics of Radha and Krishna. And the way he would speak and present these topics and Siddhanta was extraordinary. And I wanted to read a little bit from a very beautiful book, Loving Search for the Lost Servant. Just the title itself, Krishna's loving search for the lost servant. We are his servants and we are lost, and Krishna is searching for us. So this depth of perception, of heart, that Srila Bhakti Raksaka Sridhar Maharaj gave to the world. He softened our somewhat fanatical consciousnesses, because after the departure of Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami, everyone, or the preaching work was going on, etc. All we knew was preaching, but we didn't really know the heart that we had to develop to perform the preaching activity properly, with potency. We were just doing it like fanatics in a sense, rather than having the ability to be empathic with those persons that we were trying to touch and reach to. So I'm just reading. I opened this book just at random today, and remarkably, I opened at the very pastime that I told yesterday of the Krishna's sickness. And Srila Bhakti Raksaka Sridhar Maharaj, he tells this story in Kailamban, when I described about the pot with the many holes in it that had to be filled with water to alleviate Krishna's sickness. So Srila Bhakti Raksaka Sridhar Maharaj, he speaks that story. And then I went back a couple of pages from that story, and I found exactly the same pastime that I'd also been describing yesterday about Vatsavan and Lord Brahma. So I thought that was quite remarkable that I'd been directed in that sense, just to pick up on these two pastimes that we'd already covered yesterday, to bring some relevance to this reading that I want to offer here. So Srila Bhakti Raksaka Sridhar Maharaj, he's saying, in many places in Srimad Bhagavatam, we find Lord Brahma, the creator of the universe, being tested by Krishna. So this was the test we heard yesterday at Vastavan. So now Bhakti Raksaka Sridhar Maharaj, from his deep mood of contemplation, is giving us an insight into that same pastime again. And still, Brahma is our Gurudev. He is the original guru of our line. So this was the consideration we were touching on yesterday also, trying to reconcile this point. He is the original guru of our line. That he could become bewildered is so perplexing and difficult to understand that Madhvacharya eliminated that section from the Srimad Bhagavatam. This is also what I was mentioning yesterday. He could not accept these two chapters of Srimad Bhagavatam, where Brahma was under illusion, where he had some misunderstanding about Krishna. But Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu accepted everything as toto. That means complete. So now he's reconciling this. This is a very peculiar thing. How can the original guru of our sampradaya become bewildered about Krishna? It is achintya, inconceivable. This is the point that I want to just bring out here in this reading, this appreciation of the point of inconceivability. Still, everything is intelligible through the philosophy of achintya Veda Veda Tattva, inconceivable oneness and difference. Our dear Yashodanandan Prabhu is very fond of this particular topic, and he's written a beautiful treatise on this topic, which is fascinating. How can we accommodate that our original guru becomes perplexed, not only once, but twice? That is Leela, a divine pastime. An example of achintya Veda Abheda Tattva is found in the way Krishna deals with his devotees. Krishna himself is independent of everything. Still, sometimes he shows himself to be completely subordinate to his servants and must do whatever they want him to. Then again, sometimes he completely ignores them. These are the spontaneous pastimes of the sweet absolute. Sometimes he shows absolute submission to Srimati Radhika, and again, sometimes he ignores her. This is the very nature of Krishna Leela. So I can sense that Srila Bhakti Raksaka Sridhar Maharaj is really going deeply personally into this topic in his heart himself. It's churning, and he, by his great compassion, is sharing this realization and appreciation with us even today. Today, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he says, he reasons ill who tells that Vaishnavas die when thou art always living still in sound. So this is the sound vibration of Srila Bhakti Raksaka Sridhar Maharaj. He has not departed, just as none of our Guru Vargya have departed. Our consciousnesses. Consciousnesses is what we are actually made of. The essence of the jiva is consciousness. Consciousness is life. This body is very temporary, but consciousness is what we are cultivating and developing. The symptom of life is consciousness. So this consciousness is being ignited today by Srila Bhakti Raksaka Sridhar Maharaj.
21 minutes, Maharaj.
Huh?
Over 21 minutes.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I haven't even started yet. Okay. Do I get any extra mileage of having sort of organized this a little bit? All right.
Like,
I just,
you decide.
no, just another couple of minutes just to finish the point, because he just says that he emphasizes that it's very important to not to try to understand these various leelas that we're hearing, but to try, as I've said personally many, many times, to appreciate these leelas. If we think we have actually, he says, let me just read this one part here. He says, knowledge may be a qualification here in this world, but in relation to the transcendental truth of the highest order, the tendency to want to know everything is a disqualification. We want to know the value of everything. We want to have the key to everything in our possession. But this is really a bar to progress. If we assert ourselves in this way, we rather lose what confidence we might have in divinity, because we've gone into a material knowledgeable realm rather than having confidence in the unknown, the achintya aspect of the divinity. If we assert ourselves in this way, we lose that what confidence we might have in divinity, and there will be some delay in extending the key to us, the key to entering the heart. If a servant, upon getting employment in the master's house, is very eager to be entrusted with the house keys, then the master will suspect him. So we want to know everything. So to want to know everything is a type of disease. It is an enemy to our progress. This is, of course, difficult to accept, but still it is true. Surrender is everything. What cultivation of knowledge do we find in the gopis, the most exalted devotees of Krishna? What was their acquaintance with scripture? Nothing. What we understand to be standard purity, what we think to be knowledge, all these things are disqualifications in giving pleasure to the absolute. An example of how our misconceived standards of purity and chastity are disqualifications can be seen in the following story. And then he's going to describe this story of Krishna being sick and Radharani filling up a container filled with holes. It's inconceivable. We cannot conceive of it, but it's a so that point I think is very, very valid, but there are a million jewels of that nature. Prakashatma Prabhu also brought out many of those aspects of those qualities. So today, with great joy and happiness, we're celebrating this illustrious person in our Rupanuga Guru Vargya and appreciating the immense gifts and sweetness that he's given to us. So Srila Bhakti Raksaka Sridhar Maharaj Dev Goswami Ki Jai. Also, while I'm here, we have two places that we're going to visit today on the parikrama. And I'm just going to run straight into the next parikrama place where we're going to go, which is the Jharu-mandal, which is very close to Radha Syamasundara. So after I've spoken this, then our dear Bhaktivedanta Nemi Maharaj will come and speak about Radha Syamasundara, because that's where we're going on a very brief parikrama today. We're just going on a brief parikrama. So is that okay, Yashoda?
Yeah, perfect, Maharaj. Before I just ask you some questions and respond to you, I'm very grateful because Sriman Jiva Pavana Prabhu had some personal darshan with Bhakti Raksaka Sridhara Maharaj. He's just going to speak for about a minute, sharing this with us.
Great,
So go ahead,
great.
Prabhu. Thank you. Oh, I have to unmute you. Where are you? Gosh. That's the problem about having to unmute people. I can't find them.
Don't you have a list?
Yeah, I do, but it's a big list because there's lots of people.
Isn't it in alphabetical order?
Hare Krishna.
Hey,
Oh,
there
he's
you
there.
are. He's unmuted.
He's managed to do it himself. Fantastic. Well done. Go ahead,
Where's his
Prabhu.
beautiful face? Oh, there he is.
For the sake of brevity, I just offer my obeisances to our entire line of gurus and to all the participating devotees, etc. Just wanted to say that during the very, very turbulent time, when Jayatirtha was having his difficulties and Hansaduta had his difficulties, and devotees, senior devotees were in the habit of going to his Divine Grace Sridhara Maharaj for guidance. I happened to be there, and there was a very, very passionate conflict between devotees that had gravitated to Sridhara Maharaj and senior devotees like Jayapataka Maharaj from ISKCON, taking place in front of Sridhara Maharaj. And I was just very quiet watching the whole scene and watching his Divine Grace. And Srila Maharaj, he throughout the whole thing, whenever anyone would turn to him for his response, in which was obviously a very large political battle like the Mahabharata between the two sides, his concern, he would continually say, go to Haribo, go to Haribo, go to Haribo, go to Haribo, before he would say anything. And whatever he said, he was simply trying to elevate everyone's consciousness. And I could see that his concern was for the disciples of Jayatirtha and Hansaduta and others for their faith, how everyone would deal with these, how it would affect his faith. He was appreciative of the devotees that had gravitated to him, but at the same time, he wasn't in their mood of like offending Vaishnavas for the sake of supporting him. And at the same time, he was showing respect to the representatives of ISKCON. And I could see that he was actually a zillion miles above the entire situation and simply trying to elevate and help everyone. And I just remember him constantly saying, go to Haribo, go to Haribo. And when he would say that under his breath before he would say anything, go to Haribo, it had an intense effect on me and washing my own consciousness and becoming free from the passion that was being created. So I just wanted to mention that because of something that Maharaj said that reminded me of that particular darshan.
Thanks, Prabhu. Actually, it really chimes nicely with what Maharaj was saying, because the principal message I got from Maharaj's exposition is how so many people in ISKCON were in need of the manifestation on this earthly plane of love and affection as an expression of Krishna philosophy, and that there was a dearth of that, and he exemplified that, yeah. Which is very, very wonderful, and that's exactly what Srila Gurudev has in abundance. Maharaj, I love what you said about how Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada left so many jewels in the hearts of his devotees, which then manifested and unfolded. And your story about Vaijayantimala coming back with the book, with Shri Guru and his grace, but you didn't tell us whether you gave it back to her. You said you took it off her. Did you give it back to her? Hang on.
Yes, we shared it.
Oh, good.
We
good,
shared
good.
it. We shared it.
And also, I've kind of thought about this before, but the Kartik Leelas are making a deeper impression of perhaps this observation that a lot of the things that have happened with ISKCON, you know, like in the spiritual world, there's always this dynamic where there's a constraint on there's a
two parties.
Yeah, and there's a constraint on the love in order to nourish and intensify the love of the other. And in a sense, that's what ISKCON, that the dynamic with ISKCON can be looked at in that way to some extent.
Yes, very good. Nice observation.
Yeah.
Very nice
actually,
observation.
If you see it in that way, and you see how many people like yourself, like Jiva, so many people have crossed, as you said, like crossed the river, how that has, if you hadn't have done that, if you hadn't have given up your reputations, if you hadn't have taken that risk, then a lot of power, spiritual power and mercy may have not flowed into your heart in the same way. So
exactly the same way with our Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj. So many people left that,
yes,
you know, wonderful institution of ISKCON and crossed that river and were condemned, vilified for doing so. And
yes.
that just I mean, just like the gopis had to leave their homes, their families, etc. So we've had different opportunities in life to just withdraw that extra baggage, perhaps, that we might have taken on board from a different institution that has to be just dropped off to go to the next stage. And let's see now.
It's the risk you're taking. It's the
the risk.
You mentioned. I just want to clarify something. Did Bhakti Raksaka Maharaj? Oh no, you seem to link.
Yashoda, just hold 1 second. Let me just give a beautiful expression from Bhakti Raksaka Maharaj about risk, because what you just said then and what we've just discussed in the last few minutes is about that. And he says, risk enhances the mood of love.
Oh.
It is a necessary part of the highest form of love. This is actually one of his quotes. So risk, so we take a risk, we jump off the cliff, so to speak, with great faith that we are in the right direction.
Well, that's exemplified by the gopis, right? So
yes, entirely.
Can I just clarify something? The link between Bhakti Raksaka Maharaj and Srila Gurudev for you was what? Was that you said he broke that kind of
bubble.
That was the link, was it? Okay.
Yeah, for me.
And also, I just want to add one thing.
Because I had been thinking all the time, of course, that ISKCON was the only group in the world for advocating Krishna consciousness. Yeah. I wasn't allowed to sort of entertain an appreciation for the Gaudiya Math. I think this is where Jiva Pavana Prabhu, he has so much experience there. I was hoping that he would say more about his association.
So one other thing I'd like to add is you said how not to try to understand the Leela, but to appreciate the Leela. And in fact, if we serve the Leela with our hearts through our ears, then surely we get the most benefit.
Yes, well, serving and appreciating, if you're in astonishment and you're not trying to categorize it logically or rationally. Yeah. Rupa Goswami, Rupa Goswami, this is his teaching. He says that rationality and logic have no realm in the world of rasa. Nothing is logical, the way Radharani sometimes goes into man with Krishna for no reason whatsoever. She just suddenly decides that actually, Krishna, I'm going to go in a man now. And Krishna, like, just what's he supposed to do with that? You know, it's just remarkable. No cause at all. Sahetu, it's called. No cause to this man. She's just suddenly decides to do, and it's all to bring out love. That's a very nice point you're making, I believe, Yashoda Prabhu. By these differences and these apparent battles, we can say, that go on, are all progressive. We can see, just like Bhakti Raksaka Maharaj himself said, he said, everything in the environment is always friendly for bhakti. Everything is friendly for bhakti. If our vision is on devotion, then the environment is always friendly.
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. We're now going to finish. Thank you so much, Maharaj. That was And thank you for all three incredible expositions on Bhakti Raksaka Sridhar Maharaj on this very auspicious day. So we're going to now finish up in Hackney, London, with our beloved Sripad Bhaktivedanta Nemi Maharaj, and he's going to take us on our short parikram today of Sri Jharu-mandal and Sri Radha Syamasundara. Hari Bol. Welcome back. Where is he? I just need to ask you. Yeah. Okay.
Yantirandasya Gyananjana Shlaka Chakshuran Militang Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Gurudev ki jai, Shri Prabhupada ki jai, Shri Bhakti Maharaja ki jai, Shri Bhakti Rakshak Shri Goswami Maharaj ki jai. Hare Krishna. Just remembering Pujyapada Tridandi Maharaj's point about taking risk. So Shanaka Rishi told this story that somebody fell off a cliff and he's tumbling down the cliff, and somehow he manages to catch on to, there's a tree sticking out of the cliff. It's very, very fragile. And he's hanging on to this. And he's calling out in desperation. Is there anybody there? Is there anybody there? And then a voice says, yes, I am here. Just let go and I will catch you. And then he calls out, is anybody else there? Is anybody else there? So this is like surrender, you know, we're looking for somebody else. Krishna's saying, just let go. Sarvadharma Prityaja Mame Kangshanam Bhaja. We're saying, is there anything else? Is there anything else? This is the risk of love. Jharu-mandal, on the parikrama path. So the pastime, there was one lady was grinding grains, morning and evening, day and night. And the grinding stone was going, kuh, 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 kuh. But devotees or people, neighbors, they were complaining that you're spoiling our rest, you're spoiling our day, constant kuh, 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 kuh with this grinding wheel. And she was praying to Krishna, she's a devotee, she's praying to Krishna, what should I do? And Krishna personally came and he put his foot on the wheel so she couldn't grind anymore. And he said, stop. She said, but what am I going to do? He said, it's all right. I'm leaving my footprint on this grinding stone. Looks like we're going to get a picture. Yeah. So there's the grinding stone and there's Krishna's beautiful footprint. He leaves his footprints in various places. Like, for example, there's that very moody place in Kamyavan on the top of the hill there. Krishna's footprint, the gopis used to go and worship. And in other places also. We were at, I forget what the place is called, but there's a lot of footprints in one place. We were there with Srila Gurudev and Srila Trivika Maharaj. So one of those footprints is huge. You know, it's like this. And Srila Trivika Maharaj said, just see how great my Lord is. And Gurudev said, no. He said the rock was soft and his foot slipped. Anyway, this footprint is, so Krishna said in this footprint that the neighbor, everybody will come. My footprint is here. Everybody will come. They will take darshan of my footprint and they'll leave some donations. So there's no need for you to go on grinding corn. So this is one pastime here, Jharu-mandal. I'm also, we'll talk also about Sri Syamasundara temple. Syamasundara temple, it's on the road between Lower Bazaar and Radha Damodar temple. One of the very, very popular temples. One of the characteristics there is Radha Syamasundara there. They're very strict about not photographing inside. But Radha Syamasundara there, they dress him up in different poses. So last time I went, which is quite a while ago, he was dressed up as a doctor, and he had a stethoscope and I think he had an electronic thing for registering blood pressure and like that. So many different. Okay, this is Radha Syamasundara. Hare Krishna. So it's a wonderful temple, wonderful tradition. The Hare Krishna. Gorgeous decorations, gorgeous dressing. Really, really, really beautiful, stunning. Looks like there's another picture coming up underneath as well. Yep. And it's very, very beautiful artistic decoration. Amazing. Simply amazing. And underneath?
No, there's something else. This is everything to Radha
Okay.
Syamasundara.
Shri Radha Syamasundara ki jai. So, Syamananda, the temple is connected with Syamasundara Prabhu. So a couple of days ago, we glorified Narottam Prabhu, Narottam Thakur. And Syamasundara is the third member of Prabhu Troy. He came later than, he came to Srila Jiva Goswami later than Srivas Thakur, Srinivas, yeah. Later than Srinivas and Narottam Thakur. Also an amazing personality. He's coming in an amazing line. His Param Guru is Gauridas Pandit, who had this amazing relationship with Gaurnitai deities. Pujyapada Tridandi Maharaj has related that, how Gaurnitai actually manifested there. Gaurnitai manifested the deities, and when Gauridas Pandit didn't want to let Gaurnitai go, the deities started to leave. So they're very amazing deities. Then Gauridas Pandit had a disciple who's also had an extraordinary relationship with the deities. And on one occasion, they left the altar. Gauridas Pandit was in Man with his disciple, and the deities left the altar and joined in the kirtan with his disciple. And then when they saw Gauridas Pandit coming with a stick in his hand, Lord Chaitanya actually hid in the heart of the disciple. So Gauridas Pandit offered obeisances. Then he said, "Oh, your name will be Hriday Chaitanya." So Hriday Chaitanya is the spiritual master of Syamasundara Prabhu. But Syamasundara didn't have that name when he first came to Vrindavan. Jiva Goswami gave him the task of sweeping in Sevakunj. So sweeping is a very extraordinary function. Like we know that Prataparudra Maharaj, for example, he was sweeping the floor in the ground in front of Lord Jagannath. And by that sweeping specifically, he received the mercy of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And Narottam Thakur was sweeping the toilet area of his Guru Maharaj, Sri Lokanath Das Goswami. My Guru Maharaj also, I related how Sri Dayananda Das Babaji Maharaj, late at night, he saw my Guru Maharaj sweeping in the courtyard of Radha Damodar, in the Samadhi area of Radha Damodar, crying and crying, "Oh, Guru Maharaj, you give me such a task. How can I fulfill this task?" So for us, sweeping is no big deal. You know, you pick up a broom and you sweep. But in India, it's not expected that elevated personalities will sweep. So Shyamananda's humbly sweeping there. And on one occasion, he found an amazing anklet with ankle belts on, golden, effulgent. So he was very enlivened. And he came back to show it to Srila Jiva Goswami, his Shiksha Guru. So Jiva Goswami said, "Oh, Jiva Goswami said, oh, these don't give this back to anyone. If anyone comes and asks for it, you say that I will only give it back to the original owner. So then 2 girls came and they said, oh, Babaji, you found any ankle belt? I said, yeah. Oh, so you give it to us. It belongs to our Saki. He said, no, 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 she can come herself. Anyway, I want to make sure that it matches the other one on your Saki's foot. And then they're arguing, hey, Babaji, you want to associate with some young lady? What kind of brahmachari you are? And they're having this like joking exchange. But in the end, they blindfolded Syamasundara Prabhu and brought, of course, it's Lalita and Vishaka, and they brought Srimati Radhika, and he was able to tie the ankle belt on Srimati Radhika's ankle. But before that, she made a tilak, special tilak, on his forehead with the ankle belt. Then, either on that occasion or another occasion, she gave him a little deity of Krishna, black, Lala. And that deity is worshipped in Radha Syamasundara temple. Lala Lali. There's a Radha deity and a Krishna deity. But the Krishna deity is manifested directly from Srimati Radhika. So it's very special encounter. Syamasundara Prabhu, as far as I recall, his name was Dukhi Krishna Das before this incident. I can call it an incident. So he went back to Srila Jiva Goswami and he recounted what had happened. And Jiva Goswami saw the tilak, and he said, "Oh, your name should be Syamananda." So Syam, Ananda means bliss. Now, when we were talking about the rasa dance, I mentioned Sandhi, the joining of words. So Syamananda can mean somebody who gives bliss, Ananda, to Syam, but it also can mean someone who gives bliss, Ananda, to Syama. So Syama is Srimati Radhika. So Syamananda means giving bliss to Srimati Radhika. Oh, and giving bliss to Krishna also. So after that, his Guru Maharaj, Sri Dayananda Goswami Maharaj, Sri Chaitanya Maharaj, he found out about this, and he thought that Srila Jiva Goswami had reinitiated his disciple. And he came and he was really angry. He saw the tilak and he was rubbing the tilak with his cloth to get rid of the tilak, and Syamasundara Prabhu was standing very, very humbly. And of course, the tilak wouldn't come off. So in the end, Sri Chaitanya Maharaj, he accepted the whole situation, and he became very happy that his disciple had advanced in this way. Syamasundara, afterwards, he went with Narottam Thakur, Srinivasa Acharya, and they took the Goswami's books in a cart to Jharu-mandal, and they distributed the books there, the devotees there, they copied the books, distributed the books, and then all 3 of them got together and they organized the first big Gaura Purnima festival, and that we described already. In the courtyard of Radha Syamasundara temple, there's the cave where Syamasundara Prabhu performed bhajan. I only found that recently, saw it recently. So you can go down, it's quite deep down. Many of our acharyas actually performed in bhajan in caves. Bhugarbha Goswami, whose samadhi is in Radha Damodar. Sanatana Goswami, he performed bhajan in a cave, deep cave in Gokul Mahavan. And Raghava Pandit also behind Govardhan, behind the Rasastali there in Govardhan. There's a cave there. So Syamasundara Prabhu was performing bhajan there. His samadhi, there's just over the gully there, and just slightly down towards Radha Damodar, there's a place there Nupur Praptastali. So this is celebrated as the place where Syamasundara Prabhu actually found that Nupur, and his samadhi is right next to that Nupur Praptastali. So Syamasundara Prabhu, he's a great preacher, and he spread Krishna consciousness very, very widely. So this is one great personality connected with Radha Syamasundara temple. And another great personality is Srila Baladev Vijayabhusan Prabhu, whose deities are worshipped there. So Srila Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur, in his old age, received a message from Rajman Singh II of Jaipur. Rajman Singh I had taken the main deities to Jaipur, including Govindaji. I don't know, either he wanted to put Radha on the temple with Govindaji, or they'd already put Radha on the temple with Govindaji. In any case, there was a group from South India, they were Vaishnavas also, but they were protesting that you can't put Radha on the altar with Govinda because there's no mention of her, Radha, in the Srimad Bhagavatam. So if you're going to worship anyone with Govinda, it should be Rukmini. Now, of course, for Gaudiya Vaishnavas, the idea of worshipping Rukmini and Braj Govinda on the altar together, it's Maharasa Bas. Rukmini is Krishna's queen in Dwaraka, the most senior queen, and she worships Krishna in some awe and reverence. In Sakya Ras, they're married. Whereas Govinda, he associates with the gopis, and especially with Srimati Radhika, in Parakya Ras, which means that the mood is of paramour. Means that the gopis appear to be married to somebody else, and they're associating with Krishna as though they're associating with Upapati, means beloved rather than with husband. And they're not worshipping Krishna in awe and reverence. They're not conscious of the fact that Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead. He's their supremely delightful, beautiful, loving, funny, expert, beloved. So it's a completely different mood. So Rajman Singh II sent a message, urgent message to Srila Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur that please you come and refute the arguments of this group of Vaishnavas, Southern Vaishnavas. Srila Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur was not in a position to accept the invitation. He was in advanced age and he was deeply absorbed in bhajan. So he sent Baladev Vijayabhusan Prabhu. Baladev Vijayabhusan Prabhu is his Shiksha disciple. He actually, initially, he received Diksha in the Madhvacharya's line. But later on, he met one Gaudiya Vaishnava who converted him, as it were, and then he came to Vrindavan and he met with Srila Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur, and he accepted Srila Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur as his Shiksha Guru, and he accepted the Gaudiya principles as his own. So Srila Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur sent him and one other devotee to a place just outside Jaipur, rocky, rugged, barren-looking place. So they had a debate there, and Srila Baladev Vijayabhusan Prabhu, he answered the challenge of the Southern, that you're saying that Radha's name is not mentioned in Srimad Bhagavatam, but it is mentioned, and he pointed to this verse, Anaya Radhitanu Nam. There, Shukadev Goswami, generally, he could not utter the name of Srimati Radhika, because otherwise he might have gone into samadhi for so many days, and then Srimad Bhagavatam wouldn't have manifested. So, but that verse there, Anaya Radhitanu Nam, it's taking place in the midst of the most sacred, most advanced, most confidential pastime. This gopi, Radha, she's worshipping the supreme. She is the most worshipping and the most worshipable also. So he pointed that out. And then secondly, he pointed out that Srimati Radhika is specifically named and described in other Puranas. So there's no question of saying that it's not Galta. Thanks, yeah. They're meeting at a place called Galta. So it's not legitimate to say that you can't worship Radha with Govinda. She belongs with Govinda. So the Southern Vaishnavas, they said, as far as I recall, it's a Ramanandi group. They said, well, okay, we accept that, but we can't accept you as a bona fide line because you don't have a commentary on Vedanta Sutra. So Baladev Vijayabhushan Prabhu said, but we don't need a commentary on Vedanta Sutra because Srimad Bhagavatam itself is a commentary on Vedanta Sutra, and that's stated explicitly in Garuda Purana. They said, no, we don't accept that argument. All the authentic lines, Sri Sankaracharya has got his commentary on Vedanta Sutra, Sharak Bhasya. And then all the Vaishnava lines, Madhvacharya, Ramanujacharya, Nimbaditya, Vishnu Swami, they all have their commentaries, but you don't have a commentary, so we can't accept you as an authentic line of Vaishnavas. So what you're saying has no real validity, and therefore we still can't allow Shri Radha to be on the altar with Govinda. So Baladev Vijayabhushan Prabhu, he prayed to Krishna, what can I do? You have to help here. So at the end of Govinda Bhasya, Baladev Vijayabhushan Prabhu says that Krishna dictated this commentary, Govinda Bhasya. So he dictated this commentary, and in a very few days, he manifested this full commentary, establishing the full teachings of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And my Guru Maharaj also, he dedicated his Bhagavad Gita, he presents to Baladev Vijayabhushan Prabhu, who presented Govinda Bhasya so nicely. So he actually followed Govinda Bhasya, Baladev Vijayabhushan Prabhu's commentary on Bhagavad Gita, but also my Guru Maharaj also manifested his books in a very amazing way. On one occasion, some reporters were asking Srila Prabhupada, why do you say that what you're saying is not different from what Krishna said? So when his disciples started to explain that, because Krishna instructed Narada Muni and Narada Muni instructed Vasudev, so in this way it's coming down in the disciplic succession. And my Guru Maharaj said, no. So Krishna tells me directly what to write. So in this way, so Krishna is dictating to Srila Prabhupada in the same way as Krishna dictated to Srila Baladev Vijayabhushan Prabhu. So he presented his Govinda Bhasya, and the Southern Vaishnavas had to accept his points, and Shri Radha was established on the altar with Govindaji without challenges, and there they stand to this day. Namo Baladevaya Vidyabhusana Namine. Radha Govinda Preshtaya Vedantavit Varayate. So I offer my humble obeisances to Baladev Vijayabhushan Prabhu, who's decorated with the name of Vidyabhushan. He's decorated with knowledge. He's very dearly beloved to Radha Govinda, and he's the best of all those who know Vedanta. And with this, Hare Krishna, I will leave my words as they are. Hare Krishna, Vancha Kalpatarubhasya, Kripa Sindhubhyacha. Putitanam Pavanebhyo, Vaishnavebhyo, Namo Namaha.
Dandavat Pranams, Maharaj. That's a beautiful Leela. Can I just clarify a couple of things? I've probably been a bit slow after 2.25 hours, the brain slows down a bit. Yeah, you said that the anti-party said we can't accept you, therefore we can't accept your deity Radha, obviously, because they thought Rumini should be on the altar, as your line has no commentary on the Vedanta Sutra. And then you said that Baladev Vijayabhusana said something about refuted their point in some reference to Srimad Bhagavatam being what exactly?
Srimad Bhagavatam is the natural commentary on Vedanta Sutra, and that is stated in the Garuda Purana.
Oh,
Maybe Tridandi Maharaj may be able to quote that verse. I'm
Sutra.
ashamed to
And that's
say
stated
that.
where?
In the Garuda Purana.
Okay. Got it. That makes sense. Thank you. And the other question I had was, how does Govinda Bas, the writing of Govinda Basya, solve the problem about having no commentary on the Vedanta Sutra?
It is a commentary on Vedanta Sutra.
Oh, that's what it is. Okay.
Govinda Basya is commentary on Vedanta Sutra. It's amazing.
Okay.
Amazing commentary on Vedanta Sutra.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Maharaj. That's beautiful. Thank you for your wonderful katha this morning and every day. It's been this nectarian bliss, I have to say. Thank you to Sripad Bhaktivedanta Tridandi Maharaj. Thank you so much to Sriman Prakashatma Prabhu from Paris. And thank you so much to our beloved Sripad Bhaktivedanta Nemi Maharaj in London. A beautiful another day. Oh, one thing I should mention is tonight, UK time anyhow, 6 p.m. We have our program as normal. We've actually got Sriman Achyutananda Prabhu from the East Coast of America speaking, who had a lot of association with Bhakti Raksaka Sridhara Maharaj. So tune into that, because that should be pretty special. And just a reminder again, tomorrow, day 12 of this splendiferous 100th year Gurudev appearance year, Kartik Parakram. For those of you in America, it's going to be an hour later. So more bhajan for the morning, which is great. And for those of you also in India, New Zealand, Australia, it'll be an hour later. For those of you on the continent of Europe, it will be the same time, because I believe your clocks change at the same time as our clocks.
I think actually Danny Maharaj wants to be unmuted.
Yes. Shall I unmute him, Maharaj? What do you think?
Give him the power of speech.
Yeah? Okay, Maharaj.
Yeah.
Okay. Here you go.
Thank you. Thank you. Are you done? I just want to say that for tomorrow, everyone has to pack their bags tonight, because we're leaving for Govardhan tomorrow. An early start. We have a long journey out to Govardhan, and we'll be stopping at Chandra Sarovar, where again, Nemi Maharaj, he will describe the glories of that Ras Leela at Chandra Sarovar. And then we'll come to our temple, Giridhari Gaudiya. This is a big change, Yashoda. That's why I jumped in front of you there, just to emphasize the fact that we're shifting tomorrow, not only time-wise, but remarkably, how do you call it?
Place-wise?
There's another word. It's on the tip of my tongue. Yes, like that also. Serendipity. It's like, we just happen to be going, changing time and changing location totally. We're all going to be living in Giridhari Govardhan for the next 2 weeks. So probably that's not the right word I was thinking, but it is quite remarkable that we're shifting, and at the same time, the time zones are shifting. So we can prepare tonight, pack up bags and be ready for the buses tomorrow. And for the and at Govardhan, I'll begin opening out the Damodarastakam Leela. This will be our regular Hari Katha when we have an opportunity during this month of Kartik. So I'm just going to make an overview presentation tomorrow after we've heard about the Ras Leela in Chandra Sarovar. Then I'll just begin that Hari Katha in preparation.
Throughout the month, you're going to go through each verse one by one as well, right?
Yes, we're going to cover all the verses on the various days, like Ekadashi is the day after that. So we'll have some time then too. So that's our program. So if everyone can get themselves in gear for Govardhan tomorrow.
Thanks, Maharaj. Before we go to Kirtan, I think Madhuri wanted to say something.
So wait, tomorrow's the 31st. Do you change on the 31st or do you change on the 1st?
Are you talking about the time or the location?
The time.
Tomorrow, the 31st.
So you change on the
It's
31st.
during the night. It's like 2 a.m. or something, right?
At 2 a.m., the clocks go back to 1 a.m. So you basically have the same hour. I don't know what happens to the Ashtakali Alita because you end up having the same hour twice. Yes, 2 o'clock.
So that
Pretty
means
ecstatic.
that, does that happen tonight or tomorrow night?
No, it happens tonight at 2 a.m., i.e. tomorrow morning at 2 a.m.
Okay, got you. Okay.
In America.
No, that's the point. It doesn't happen in America. So to avoid any confusion, I'll repeat. The clocks change in UK and Europe 1 hour back. They don't change in America and they don't change in India. They don't change in Sydney. They don't change in Auckland, okay? So therefore, if you are anywhere you are in the world, it will be 1 hour later. Everything will be 1 hour later. Okay.
So our whole Zoom is operating on UK time, correct?
London time, correct.
London time, yes. Okay.
No comment.
I'm not good with maths.
Absolutely.
Let's move to our beloved Sriman Prabhu, who I can't see, but I've allowed people to unmute themselves. So Prabhu, if you're online, please jump in. I don't think he's here for some reason. Oh, he is. Oh, wonderful. There you go.
Haribol, can everyone hear me?
Yes, pretty well, actually.
Okay. I don't know. 1 second. I'm trying to turn on my video. It's not. I don't know why it's not.
You're a little quiet, actually. A little quiet.
A little quiet. Okay. How about now? Is it better?
That's good. That's good. Yeah.
That's better.
Yeah.
Okay. 1 second. Okay. Can you see me now?
Haribol, Dandavat Pranams.
Dandavat Pranam, Maharaj. Everyone. Okay. So I'm gonna sing this bhajan on Govardhan Giridhari. One second, Prabhu.
Take your time, no problem. Oh, while you're doing that, I actually forgot to thank one person. Well, actually, many people. I wanted to thank everybody for attending in such great numbers. I know Srila Gurudeva is really happy with the attendance, and without your Shravan, there'd be no kirtan. So thank you so much, everyone who's attending every day. And please do spread the word and bring your friends and family in as well. Haribol.
All right, I'm here. तुम बिन मोरी कौन खबर ले गोवर्धन गिरिधारी गोवर्धन गिरिधारी हो तुम बिन मोरी कौन खबर ले गोवर्धन गिरिधारी गोवर्धन गिरिधारी ओ गोवर्धन गिरिधारी मोर मुकुट सिर छत्र विराज कुंडल की छवि न्यारी कुंडल की छवि न्यारी गोवर्धन गिरिधारी तुम बिन मोरे कौन खबर ले, गोवर्धन गिरिधारी। हो वृंदावन की वृंदावन में धेनु चरावे, वृंदावन में धेनु चरावे, वंशी बजाए गिरिधारी, वंशी बजाए गिरिधारी। तुम बिन मोरी कौन खबर ले, गोवर्धन गिरिधारी, गोवर्धन गिरिधारी, गोवर्धन गोवर्धन गिरिधारी। हाँ मीरा के प्रभु गिरिधर नागर, मीरा के प्रभु गिरिधर नागर, चरण कमल बलिहारी, चरण कमल बलिहारी। हो तुम बिन मोरी कौन खबर ले, गोवर्धन गिरिधारी, गोवर्धन गिरिधारी। तुम बिन मोरी कौन खबर ले, मोर मुकुट और छत्र विराजे, कुंडल की छवि न्यारी, कुंडल की छवि न्यारी, कुंडल की छवि न्यारी। गोवर्धन गिरिधारी, गोवर्धन गिरिधारी, गोवर्धन गिरिधारी। हो जय गिरिराज जय गोवर्धना, गिरिराज जय गोवर्धना, जय गिरिराज जय गोवर्धना, गिरिराज जय गोवर्धना, जय गिरिधारी जय गिरिधारी, गिरिधारी जय गिरिधारी। जय गुरुदेव जय गुरुदेव, Jaya Gurudev, Jaya Jaya Gurudev, Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur, Hari Bol. Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari Bol. Srila Gurudev ki, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Guruji, thank you so much. I know the devotees are getting a lot of joy and relish from your katha, and it's I think it's very beautiful, very important, the kirtan at the beginning and the end, because it gets us into the mood, and it also somehow infuses everything we've heard, helps us absorb it. It's it's a really important part of the whole process of Harikatha. So thank you so much. Haribol, everybody. Everyone now is free to unmute themselves and let the cacophony ensue. Haribol. See everybody tomorrow.